The sun hung low over the alien forest, casting long shadows across the glowing moss that carpeted the ground. The air buzzed faintly with energy, a reminder of the strange technology woven into every corner of this world. Princess Haimin stood at the edge of the clearing, her heart pounding as she adjusted the strap of her hunting rifle. She hated these ceremonial hunts. They were nothing more than tests designed to embarrass her. Her advisors had whispered among themselves all morning, their voices dripping with doubt. "She's too soft," one had said. "Not fit to rule," another added. Even Su Bin, her closest advisor, looked at her with barely concealed disappointment. Only Jae-un, the quiet guard who always stood by her side, gave her a small nod of encouragement. His presence was comforting, even if he rarely spoke. Haimin took a deep breath and stepped forward. The hunt was supposed to be simple, a chance for her to prove herself as a capable leader. But deep down, she felt like an outsider in her own kingdom. Everyone expected greatness from her, but how could she deliver when they refused to see her true potential? As she moved deeper into the forest, the sounds around her changed. The chirping birds fell silent, replaced by an eerie stillness. Something wasn't right. Haimin paused, her boots sinking slightly into the soft soil. She glanced back at Jae-un, who raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He trusted her instincts, even if no one else did. Then she saw the tracks. Large, clawed imprints pressed into the earth, far bigger than any predator native to the planet. Her stomach tightened. These weren't ordinary animals. They belonged to something ancient, something feared. Legends spoke of creatures called Grimfangs, apex hunters, that once ruled these lands before vanishing without a trace. Haimin knelt beside the tracks, brushing away dirt with trembling fingers. "This can't be real," she muttered under her breath. Behind her, Su Bin scoffed. "You're imagining things again, Your Highness. Focus on the task at hand." But Haimin couldn't ignore what she saw. The vibrations in the ground grew stronger, shaking leaves loose from nearby trees. A low growl echoed through the forest, sending chills down her spine. Jae-un instinctively reached for his weapon, his eyes scanning the dense foliage. "Stay close," he whispered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Suddenly, the bushes rustled violently. Two golden eyes emerged from the shadows, followed by the massive form of a beast unlike anything Haimin had ever seen. Its sleek black fur shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and its teeth gleamed like shards of glass. It was beautiful and terrifying. Su Bin froze, his face pale. "Impossible," he stammered. "They're extinct." The Grimfang locked eyes with Haimin, its gaze piercing yet strangely intelligent. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, the creature turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving behind only silence. Haimin exhaled sharply, her legs threatening to give out beneath her. What had just happened? Why hadn't the beast attacked? Questions swirled in her mind. But one thing was clear. This was no ordinary hunt. Whatever those tracks belonged to, it wasn't done with them yet. Jae-un placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You handled yourself well," he said softly. "Better than most would have." Haimin managed a weak smile, though her thoughts raced ahead. If Grimfangs were back, it meant trouble not just for her, but for everyone. And somehow, she knew this encounter was only the beginning. The forest felt heavier now, as though the trees themselves were holding their breath. Princess Haimin walked briskly, her mind racing with questions she couldn't answer. The image of the Grimfang's golden eyes haunted her, those sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to look straight through her. She couldn't shake the feeling that it had been testing her, studying her. But why? Behind her, Su Bin muttered under his breath, his earlier confidence replaced by unease. "This changes everything," he said, glancing nervously at the darkening woods. "If Grimfangs are back, we're not ready for them." Haimin ignored him. She didn't have time for his doubts, not now. Instead, she focused on Jae-un, who walked silently beside her. his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. He hadn't spoken much since they left the clearing, but his calm presence was reassuring. "We need answers," Heymin said finally, breaking the silence. "There must be records about these creatures somewhere. Legends don't just appear out of nowhere." Subin frowned. "You think ancient texts will help us fight something like that?" "Your Highness, this isn't a game. These beasts could destroy us all." Sighed. "Anyway," Jaeun cleared his throat. "She's right, though," he said quietly. "If we understand what we're dealing with, we might stand a chance." Heymin nodded, grateful for his support. Deep down, she knew Subin wasn't wrong, they were unprepared. But giving up wasn't an option. Not for her kingdom, and certainly not for herself. The group decided to head back to the palace archives, a vast underground chamber filled with scrolls, holograms, and relics from centuries past. As they made their way through the forest, the air grew colder, and the glowing moss dimmed until it was almost pitch black. Every step felt heavier, as if the planet itself was warning them to turn back. When they finally reached the palace, Heymin wasted no time. She led the others straight to the archives, ignoring the curious stares of servants and guards. The room smelled of old parchment and metal, its walls lined with shelves that stretched endlessly into the shadows. Faint blue lights flickered above, casting eerie patterns on the floor. Heymin began searching through the oldest records, her fingers brushing against dusty scrolls and faded holographic displays. After hours of digging, she found what she was looking for, a fragment of a legend about the Grimfangs. According to the text, they weren't just predators. They were once tools of war, created by an advanced civilization long forgotten. They used them as weapons, Heymin read aloud, her voice trembling slightly. They enhanced their strength and speed with technology, making them nearly unstoppable. Subin leaned over her shoulder, his eyes wide. "Enhanced? You mean someone tampered with nature to create those monsters?" "It seems so," Heymin replied. "But there's more. The records mention a failsafe, a way to control or disable them if needed." Jaeun crossed his arms. "If such a thing exists, we need to find it. Fast." Determined, Heymin continued her search. Hours passed, and the room grew quieter, except for the occasional rustle of paper. Just when exhaustion began to set in, she stumbled upon another clue. A map etched onto a piece of metal. It showed the location of an abandoned laboratory hidden deep beneath the planet's surface. "This must be where they kept the failsafe," Heymin said, tracing the lines on the map with her finger. "We have to go there." Subin hesitated. "It's too dangerous. That lab has been sealed for centuries. Who knows what traps or dangers await us inside?" Jaeun stepped forward. "Then we'll face them together. We can't let fear stop us." Heymin smiled faintly. For the first time, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe she wasn't as powerless as everyone thought. With Jaeun by her side and the promise of answers ahead, she resolved to see this through. As they prepared to leave, Heymin noticed something strange. A faint vibration in the air, similar to what she'd felt in the forest. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down her spine. Someone, or something, was watching them. The journey to the hidden laboratory was long and treacherous. Princess Hye-min led the way, clutching the metal map tightly in her hand. The path twisted through jagged cliffs and dark caverns, where strange echoes bounced off the walls. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of their mission pressed down on them all. Jaeun walked close behind her, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. Subin trailed further back, muttering under his breath about how reckless this whole plan was. But Heymin didn't care. She had made up her mind. If there was a chance to stop the Grimfangs, she would take it, no matter the risk. Finally, they reached the entrance to the lab, a massive steel door, half buried in rock and vines. Rust covered its surface, but faint traces of glowing symbols hinted at the advanced technology within. He-min placed her hand on the cold metal and pushed. The door groaned open with surprising ease, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond. Inside, the air smelled stale, like nothing had moved here in centuries. Faint blue lights flickered along the walls, casting eerie shadows that danced across the floor. The group stepped cautiously forward, their footsteps echoing loudly in the silence. "This place gives me the creeps," Subin whispered, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "Are you sure this is safe? Does it matter?" He-min replied without looking back. "We're here now." As they ventured deeper into the lab, they discovered rooms filled with strange equipment, machines covered in dust, holographic displays frozen mid-message, and shelves lined with vials of unidentifiable liquids. It was clear that whoever had built this place had been working on something dangerous. In one room, He-min found what looked like a control panel. Its surface was cracked, but some of the buttons still glowed faintly. She hesitated before pressing one, unsure of what might happen. To her relief, a screen flickered to life, displaying fragmented images of Grimfangs being tested and modified. "They really did create these creatures," Jaeon said, staring at the screen. "And they treated them like weapons." He-min's heart sank as she scrolled through the data. The records confirmed her worst fears. The Grimfangs had been engineered to be nearly indestructible, with enhancements far beyond natural evolution. But there was also mention of a failsafe, a device designed to shut down their artificial abilities. "We need to find it," He-min said firmly. "If we can disable their enhancements, maybe we can stop them." The search became more frantic as they moved from room to room, each discovery bringing them closer to their goal. But the lab wasn't entirely abandoned. Traps lay dormant in the corridors, waiting to spring to life. In one narrow hallway, the floor suddenly gave way beneath Subin's feet, sending him tumbling into a hidden pit. "Help!" he shouted, his voice echoing upward. He-min and Jaeon rushed to the edge, peering down into the darkness. A faint hum came from below, and sparks flew as ancient machinery began to whir to life. "Stay calm," He-min called out. She spotted a lever nearby and pulled it, causing a platform to rise slowly from the pit. Subin scrambled onto it, his face pale but otherwise unharmed. "That was too close," he gasped, once he was safely back on solid ground. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. But He-min shook her head. "We don't have a choice. We've come too far to turn back now." Eventually, they reached a large chamber at the heart of the lab. In the center stood a pedestal holding a small, glowing orb, the failsafe. It pulsed gently, as if alive, radiating warmth even from a distance. He-min approached it carefully, her hands trembling with anticipation. Before she could touch it, however, the room shuddered violently. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed overhead. From the shadows emerged malfunctioning drones, remnants of the lab's security system that began firing indiscriminately. "Take cover!" Jaeon shouted, pushing He-min behind a console just as a blast narrowly missed them. The fight was chaotic, with the group dodging blasts while trying to disable the drones. He-min used her rifle to shoot at their weak points, guided by Jaeun's steady instructions. Subin, despite his earlier complaints, managed to hack into one of the consoles, shutting down several drones at once. When the chaos finally subsided, the room fell silent again. Breathing heavily, He-min turned back to the pedestal. The orb was still there, glowing brighter now, as if urging her to act. She picked it up, feeling its warmth seep into her skin. For a moment, she thought she heard whispers, voices speaking in a language she couldn't understand. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the sensation faded. "We need to get out of here," Jaeun said urgently. "This place isn't stable anymore." He-min nodded, clutching the orb tightly. As they hurried toward the exit, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Somewhere in the depths of the lab, unseen eyes lingered, waiting for their next move. The forest was darker than before, its shadows stretching unnaturally under the pale light of two moons. Princess Hyemin clutched the glowing orb tightly as she led the group back to the clearing where they had first encountered the grim fangs. The air felt heavier now, charged with an energy that made her skin prickle. She knew the creatures were close watching. Waiting, Jae-un walked beside her, his weapon ready but his expression calm. Su-bin trailed behind, his earlier skepticism replaced by quiet determination. None of them spoke. Words seemed unnecessary in the face of what lay ahead. When they reached the clearing, Hye-min stopped and looked around. The ground was scarred with claw marks, evidence of the Grimfang's recent presence. She could feel their vibrations again, the same low hum that had warned her days ago. But this time, it was stronger, more deliberate. "They're here," Jae-un said softly, his eyes scanning the trees. "Be ready." Hye-min nodded, gripping the orb tighter. Its warmth pulsed against her palm, almost like it was alive. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, raising her voice. "We know what you are," she called out, her words echoing through the stillness. For a moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, the bushes rustled, and the massive forms of three grim fangs emerged from the shadows. Their golden eyes gleamed in the moonlight, intelligent and calculating. They circled the group cautiously, their movements fluid and predatory. Su-bin swallowed hard, his hands trembling slightly. "This is insane," he muttered. "They're going to kill us." "No," Hye-min said firmly. "They won't." She raised the orb high above her head, letting its glow illuminate the clearing. The Grimfangs froze, their heads tilting as if studying it. A low growl rippled through the air, but they didn't attack. Instead, they seemed curious. "What are you doing?" Su-bin asked nervously. "Testing my theory," Hye-min replied without looking away from the creatures. "If this orb really is the failsafe, then it should disable their enhancements. I just need to activate it." She focused on the orb, willing it to respond. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, the pulsing light grew brighter, spreading outward in waves. The grim fangs recoiled, shaking their heads as if trying to resist its effects. One of the creatures let out a piercing roar, breaking the tension. It lunged toward Hye-min, its claws glinting dangerously. Jae-un reacted instantly, stepping between them and firing his weapon. The blast struck the Grimfang's side, forcing it to retreat momentarily. "Hurry!" Jae-un shouted, keeping his aim steady. Hye-min closed her eyes, concentrating harder. She could feel the orb's energy coursing through her, connecting to something deep within herself. It wasn't just controlling the Grimfangs, it was resonating with her. And then, she understood. She wasn't just activating the failsafe. She was becoming part of it. The realization hit her like a wave. Her body tingled as the orb's power surged, sending out a final burst of light that engulfed the entire clearing. The Grimfangs staggered, their sleek fur dimming as their artificial enhancements shut down. One by one, they collapsed onto the ground, unconscious, but alive. The forest fell silent once more, the oppressive energy dissipating into the night. Hye-min lowered the orb, her arms heavy with exhaustion. She turned to see Jae-un staring at her, his expression unreadable. "You did it," he said finally, his voice filled with awe. "You stopped them." But Hye-min shook her head. "Not completely. This isn't over yet." Before anyone could respond, a figure stepped out from the shadows. Tall and cloaked in black, the stranger moved with unnatural grace, their face obscured by a hood. In their hand, they held a small device, a control unit linked to the Grimfangs. "Impressive," the figure said, their voice smooth and cold. "But predictable. Did you really think you could undo centuries of work so easily?" Hye-min's heart sank. "Who are you?" she demanded, clutching the orb protectively. The figure tilted their head, studying her intently. "Let's just say I'm someone who values progress above all else. The Grimfangs were never meant to be contained. They were designed to evolve, to adapt, to dominate, and destroy everything in their path? Hye-min shot back, anger rising in her chest. That's not evolution. That's madness. The stranger chuckled softly. Perhaps. But sometimes, chaos is necessary for growth. You'll understand that. Soon enough. With a flick of their wrist, the figure activated the device, causing the fallen Grimfangs to stir weakly. Before they could fully recover, however, the stranger vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only silence. Hye-min stared after them, her mind racing. Whoever this person was, they weren't done. Not with the Grimfangs, and certainly not with her. We need to get back to the palace, Jae-un said urgently. Now, Hye-min nodded, though her thoughts were elsewhere. The battle might have been won, but the war was far from over, and she knew, deep down, that she would have to confront not only the Grimfangs, but also the mysterious force behind their return. The palace was quiet when Princess Hye-min and her companions returned, but the weight of what had happened hung heavily in the air. The orb, the failsafe, rested securely in a reinforced chamber deep within the royal archives. Its glow had dimmed since the encounter with the Grimfangs, but Hye-min could still feel its faint pulse, like a heartbeat echoing in her mind. She stood alone in the archive room, staring at the orb through the glass. Her thoughts raced as she replayed the events of the past days, the golden eyes of the Grimfangs, the stranger's cold voice, the realization that this was only the beginning. She felt different now, stronger somehow, as though the orb had awakened something inside her that she hadn't known existed. Jae-un found her there, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. He didn't say anything at first, just waited quietly until she turned to face him. "You did well," he said finally, his tone calm but sincere. "Not many people could have handled all of that." Hye-min managed a small smile, though her mind was still elsewhere. "I didn't do it alone. You were there every step of the way. And Subin too," Jae-un added with a slight grin, even if he spent most of the time complaining. Hye-min chuckled softly, remembering Subin's panicked expressions during their escape from the lab. Despite his doubts, he had proven himself when it mattered most. She made a mental note to thank him later for surviving, if nothing else. But her moment of levity faded quickly. The stranger's words echoed in her mind. Chaos is necessary for growth. Whoever they weren't going to stop. And neither were the Grimfangs. "We need to prepare," Hye-min said suddenly, her voice firm. "If that person comes back, and they will, we can't afford to be caught off guard again." Jae-un nodded. "Agreed, but preparation takes time. And trust." "I know," Hye-min replied, "which is why I need allies. People who believe in me, even when I don't believe in myself." She thought about her advisors, her guards, the citizens of her kingdom. For so long, she had felt like an outsider among them, someone unworthy of their respect or loyalty. But now, standing here with the orb safely contained, and the memory of the Grimfang's retreat fresh in her mind, she realized something important. Leadership wasn't about being perfect. It was about being willing to learn, to adapt, to fight for what mattered. Over the next few days, Hye-min worked tirelessly to strengthen the kingdom's defenses. She ordered new training programs for the royal guard, commissioned research into ancient technologies, and reached out to neighboring regions for support. Some dismissed her efforts as unnecessary, claiming the threat was over. Others, however, saw the determination in her eyes and chose to stand by her side. Subin surprised her the most. After weeks of skepticism, he approached her one evening with a stack of documents detailing potential strategies for dealing with advanced threats. "You were right," he admitted grudgingly. "About everything. If we want to survive, we need to think ahead." Hye-min smiled, feeling a sense of pride she hadn't expected. For the first time, she truly felt like a leader, not because of her title, but because of the trust others placed in her. Still, the shadow of the stranger lingered. Each night, Haman dreamed of golden eyes, watching her from the darkness, their gaze both threatening and curious. She knew they would return, bringing with them new dangers and challenges. But instead of fear, she felt resolve. She was ready, or at least, she would be. One evening, as she walked through the glowing gardens outside the palace, Jae-un joined her. They didn't speak for a while, content to simply enjoy the quiet beauty of the alien plants swaying gently in the breeze. "What happens next?" Jae-un asked eventually, breaking the silence. Hyman paused, looking up at the twin moons hanging low in the sky. "I don't know," she admitted. "But whatever it is, we'll face it together." Jae-un nodded, his expression thoughtful. "So have you," Heemin replied with a smile. "We all have." As they stood there, the vibrations returned the same faint hum that had signaled the presence of the Grimfangs before. This time, however, it felt different. Less menacing, more aware. Heemin closed her eyes, letting the sensation wash over her. Deep down, she knew the Grimfangs weren't gone forever. Their retreat had been temporary, a gesture of respect rather than defeat. When she opened her eyes again, Jae-un was watching her closely. "What is it?" he asked. "They're still out there," Heemin said softly. "Watching, waiting, but so are we," Jae-un replied, his voice steady. "And next time, we'll be ready." Heemin nodded, a spark of determination lighting up her face. Whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. She had her team, her kingdom, and herself, a princess no longer underestimated, but fully prepared to lead. As the moons cast their silver light across the garden, Hye-min felt a strange sense of peace. She might have been a novice once, unsure of her place in the world. But now, she was ready.